Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus. Hey, welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. Now, before we start, I want to go ahead and warn you to use discretion when listening to today's episode. Today's passage references sexual abuse, so if you or someone nearby is uncomfortable discussing this topic, we would advise you to go ahead and turn off the episode. So, my name is Joanna Kimbrell, and I am your host through the book of Genesis. So, right now, Jacob is on his way to Bethel, but he is moving very slowly instead of moving quickly to answer God's call. And that decision to settle in Shechem puts his daughter Dinah in a vulnerable place. The prince of the land, Shechem, saw her, desired her, and raped her. And then he wanted to marry her. Now, it is important for us to note here that the text is very clear that this is an outrageous thing that must not be done. Rape is a terrible sin that is never okay. Now, Jacob's sons are livid, but Shechem's father tries to justify it by saying that Shechem longs for her and tries to get them to give her over to the man who raped her as his wife. So Jacob's sons come up with a plan. They tell him that if all the males become circumcised, then Shechem can have Dinah. So everyone was circumcised, but then 3 days later, when the men were sore from their procedure and not able to fully engage, they killed all the males and plundered their city and took women and children captive. Now, please hear me. The rape of Dinah was a terrible sin. But rather than dealing with the sin appropriately and proportionately, they killed a city full of people. This was not a proper response. And if this chapter shows us anything, it's that people are capable of so much sin. In his grace, God does not abandon Jacob, but he puts him back on the right path and tells him to go to Bethel, and Jacob listens. He calls the people to leave behind their false gods and to move forward from their sin to follow the one true God. As they journeyed on, God protected them, just like he promised, by making other cities afraid of Jacob and his people. Then God reiterated and confirmed his promise to Jacob, the same promise he made to Abraham and Isaac before him. The promise continues. But soon after this great joy, there is great sorrow. Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife, died while delivering her last son. She called him Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrow. But Jacob changed his name to Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. Even in the midst of this incredible sorrow, Jacob trusts in the Lord's goodness and rejoices in his son. And then Reuben, Jacob's oldest son, sleeps with Jacob's concubine. And many scholars believe that this was Reuben's attempt to overtake his father as head of the household. But as we have seen time and time again, human sin does not deter God's promises and blessings. And the chapter lists the 12 sons of Jacob who will later become the 12 tribes of Israel. This chapter closes with the death of Isaac, an imperfect man who lived a life of faith by God's incredible grace. Chapter 36 gives the genealogy of Esau. Esau and Jacob end up separating because there are so many people between them, and Esau leaves Canaan, seeming to recognize that the promise does indeed go through Jacob's line. Now, Esau is also called Edom, and his descendants are the Edomites, which will just be important for us as we continue throughout the Old Testament. A lot has happened in these few chapters. There is so much sin, so many reasons from a human perspective for God's promises to fall through, but he intervenes, he redirects, and he transforms. We ourselves may feel like we have disqualified ourselves from God's blessings. Our sin is too great. We've made too many mistakes. And the truth is, we have disqualified ourselves. but Christ qualifies us. When we trust in him, we are given his righteousness and the blessings that he has earned through his perfection. As always, I am so glad you joined us today. Just a reminder that you can follow along in our free yearly Bible reading plan in the Daily Grace Co. app, or you can purchase our Story of Redemption studies that walk through the entire Bible on this same schedule at thedailygraceco.com. Thanks so much for listening in, and we will see you tomorrow.